Okay. Look, I know it's the thing right now to complain about season 4 of The Umbrella Academy, but there's a really good reason people are doing it, and it's because it was not good. It was not good. I just literally the second it ended, once we got past the end credits and the post credit scene, I just sat there and I was like, something went wrong here. Something went terribly, terribly wrong here. At the time, I thought, okay, either they wrote most of this season with the assumption there would be a season 5, or with the potential of a season 5 in mind, or they wrote most of this season thinking it would be 10 episodes. Now, from what I've seen and heard from other videos, it seems like they thought it was going to be 10 episodes. Which makes a lot of sense to me. That makes a lot of sense as to why this happened. Because, wow. Like, it's been 2 weeks since I've watched it. I'm still just thinking about how bad it was. I mean, I guess I'm thinking about it, so it worked to keep that in my brain, but I don't really think that's how they intended it to stay in people's brains. Because wouldn't be how I intended it. I just, it's the only thing that makes any sense to me, because there's no way any writer worth their salt is gonna pitch that, write it down, have the actors read it, film it, edit it, and put it on the screen. Like, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. I have to believe that they were really under the gun, had very little budget, and had their episodes cut down, because I give a lot of grace to shows and even to movies, because I know there's a lot of stupid shit that streamers and studios ask of their, writers and directors and actors. Hence, last year where we had a months-long strike by those very people to get better working conditions. It's just like but I think I debate if having 7 or 10 episodes would have actually been any better. I genuinely don't know, because there's just because just some of the stuff is just it doesn't make any sense, and like there's so many unanswered questions. Like, I'm fine with having unanswered questions, like here or there, but like you should answer some questions and maybe not bring up more. Like, what the hell is the Durango? Where exactly did it come from? Why is it so deadly? How did you discover it? Why does it react that way to Marigold? Also, who the fuck named it Durango? That is the dumbest goddamn name. I'm sorry, it's a stupid name. Every time they would say it, I would laugh. I would laugh every time a character said Durango. I'm like, I don't know why, but it sounds like you should be saying it with an Australian accent. Does that make sense? It's just, it's so bad. I have a few notes written down in like no particular order, like whatsoever. But like, it's just weird. So, okay. So the show was renewed for the 4th and final season. It was announced as the final season when season 4 was announced. And that was in August of 2022. Now, the interesting thing is, a couple months before that, in June, Stephen Blackman had given an interview where he talked about how season 4 was likely to be the last one. However, they could keep the door open for more. But he also said in another interview, like, he always knew it was going to be 4 seasons. He pitched it to Netflix as 4 seasons. Like, he's had the ending in mind, which it's like, there's, like I said before, there is no way. There is no way ever anywhere that this was what he planned. I genuinely think he just pulled some stuff out of his ass because he had to. Because, like, he even said, like, with the Five and Lila thing, that was just something, you know, he was his swing for the fences. Because he just wanted to give Five a romance, which, even if you had 10 episodes, I still don't think would make any sense. Even if it wasn't with Lila, I don't think it would make any sense. Like, why do you need that? I have to imagine it was upper people saying that. Because there was definitely, people have noted that season 4 was definitely less, queer, inexplicably. So I don't know if they just wanted to put that in there because Five's only romance was with a mannequin. I don't know. I feel like with this season, Netflix really sucked out all the, like, whimsy of the show, and I mean, maybe it's the lack of episodes. I don't know. It's just, it could be the lower budget. Stop. I need studios and streamers to stop interfering so much. You never make something better. I don't think I've ever heard of a studio or streamer making suggestions that actually made something better. Like, your writers, your directors, your actors, they know what they're doing. That's why you hire them. That's why they're there. That is their job. Let them do their job. Stop giving stupid notes. You don't know what you're talking about. Just straight up. So I don't know. I just feel like it was a lot of wasted potential, because I feel like there was a story there. It just didn't come together, and I seriously don't know if 10 episodes would have fixed that. I have my doubts about that, because there was just something not clicking with a lot of this stuff. And there were so many contrivances going on. Like, the biggest one was getting Five and Lila to the point they got to. That's, honestly, like, that almost pisses me off more than them just randomly getting together. Like, I can understand, oh, you're stuck together for 7 years, and sure, I mean, I still don't think, given their personalities and how they feel about each other, and the fact that he, you know, murdered her parents, I don't think that would have happened. But, okay, sure. But, like, the reason that they got there is so contrived. Okay, so Lila's plan was to go on the subway, go to another timeline, go back in time, and stop Ben from going on the mission. What would that have done for their timeline? Like, what, this is a whole new timeline. Reginald made an entirely new timeline. Like, he reset the universe into a new timeline. So, if you go into another timeline, how is it going to affect this reset timeline? It's not going to. It's either going to affect that particular timeline, or it's going to create another new timeline. It's not going to do anything for you. And even if it did, wouldn't the better idea be, let's just go back in time in our own current timeline that we are currently in, and stop ourselves from going to this town. Stop Ben and Jennifer from meeting. I feel like that's the better option. They had to dumb Five down so much. They had to dumb everybody down, but particularly Five, just to do this stupid Five and Lila storyline. And for fucking what? For fucking what? There is no goddamn way that you actually thought it was that good of an idea. There's no way. There's absolutely no way that you thought it was that good of an idea that you had to just fuck everything up to do it. I don't understand. I seriously don't understand. And it's like, and then, like, okay, when they're going over this plan, Five says, oh, I don't know if I can even blink us back in time. And she's like, oh, well, we'll find a suitcase, or we'll do whatever. And then they get there and they just blink back anyway. I'm like, okay, why did they even have that conversation? It didn't matter. She just mimicked his power and they went back. And then he also says when they get there, like, oh, we gotta be careful of my other self. He probably laid a trap. And then he didn't. He's just not there. So I'm like, why was that there? Why are you not cutting these lines? I watched the scenes that they put out, the cut scenes that they put out a few days ago. Why was that shit that did nothing left in and you cut these out? I don't know I don't know. I don't know what went wrong in that part. I don't know why you would choose to keep them talking about those two things that don't happen. So why even bother putting them in there? And cut out this stuff that actually does something for your characters. It astounds me. It genuinely astounds me. I'm reading my notes here. Oh yeah, why did Gene and Jean kidnap Jennifer? Did they just think it was just her? It's been 2 weeks since I watched the season. I'm not watching it again. Did they think it was just her that needed to be there? Because, like, why else would they kidnap her? Did they not know the part where it has to be in her and Ben? They just knew it was her? Also, how did they know it was her? How did they know where she was? I mean, like, I know, like, Abigail's in disguise, but she hadn't met with them yet, had they? Like, asked Cy? Like, she hadn't met with them yet. Like, I know she somehow started the Keepers. That's never explained. Although Megan Mullally, Jean says she started the whole movement, so how did that happen without... I mean, I guess Abigail must have disguised herself as someone else to do that, but how did she convince Jean? Did Jean already have some of these memories back? Why was Jennifer in the squid? I mean, like, okay, little bit of whimsy, like this show does that kind of stuff. Okay. Why did she say the cleanse? How come she knew that word? Why would she know that word? That doesn't even make any sense. I know I saw somebody say on Twitter, like, oh, well, things were bleeding through the timeline, so she just ended up in the squid. But, like, didn't it not start until the Hargreaves siblings got to the new timeline? And she was there when she was in the squid when she was a kid, so wasn't that before things started bleeding through? Again, I haven't rewatched it. Again, not going to. I actually hadn't even watched the first, I hadn't rewatched any of the first 3 seasons. I watched a little bit of season 3, but I'm kind of glad I didn't, because it wouldn't have mattered. It didn't matter. It literally didn't matter. None of that stuff really came up again. Why? How did Reginald know the world was going to end in season 1? How did he know that? That's never explained. How did the whole Abigail thing work? Like, which was this season 1 Abigail that we saw on the moon? I mean, it's kind of implied that yes, it is, but how? Because this is, again, a new rebooted timeline. So was she just also on the moon in that timeline? In which case, why did she thank Luther for protecting her on the moon when that wouldn't have happened in this timeline? I mean, I guess it happened in his timeline and she was just trying to ingratiate herself, but still, like... And which version of Reginald is this? He keeps saying he's a different Reginald, but, like... Does he have, like, season 2 and 3 Reginald's memories? Does she have her memories? I mean, she must, because she talks about how she was the one who discovered this stuff, and she was the one who destroyed her planet. And also, like, okay, she did all this. She did all this because she felt guilty about destroying her planet. So she goes and destroys another planet. Okay, sure. And you're gonna tell me in this season that the Umbrella Academy, the Hargreaves siblings have to be wiped from existence because they are always responsible for the apocalypse in a season where they are not responsible for the apocalypse. I mean, I guess he mentions that they start or try to end an apocalypse or save an apocalypse, whatever Five says in the diner. So I guess that's their excuse, but still, like, that wouldn't have happened. Like, literally, Abigail is the one who makes it happen. The kids have literally nothing to do with it. It's literally not their fault in any way, shape, or form. So, like, and also, I don't know how many alsos I'm on here, but like, what about all the other kids? What about all the other Hargreaves siblings in other timelines? Because there's other versions of them in other timelines. Why does it have to be this specific version of them? Like, we have the restaurant with all the fives, so all those fives have their families that were responsible for other apocalypses in other timelines that they were not able to stop. So that means there are other Hargreaves siblings in other timelines starting other apocalypses. So why isn't any of them? Why is it just these specific ones? Mean they will be wiped from existence and none of them will exist and all the timelines will be destroyed. Like, how? That's also not explained. It just says, oh, it destroys the Marigold. But there's Marigold in several other timelines. So, like, there were, 43 kids or whatever originally? Like, what about all of them? Why is it this specific timeline with these specific Hargreaves children? It doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Like, the way, like, this whole season, like, several times while I was watching this, I was like, this does not feel like a final season. This feels like just a regular season. I seriously think if you took from when 5 goes to the restaurant and before that, to the very beginning of the season, you just took that chunk out and swapped it with season 3, it would have worked. There's nothing that feels like a final season. There's no ticking clock. There's no big, bad. I don't even think they explain what the cleanse is until like episode 5, right? Or 6 even? There's no stakes. There's no stakes for the entire season. It just, like, it felt like it needed to be something like right at the beginning where they're like, oh shit, this thing is happening. Like, I feel like they could have done the cleanse, because honestly that's a pretty dope name, but they could have done the cleanse. It just should have been something different. I think, like, okay, they get to this timeline and it's causing other timelines to, fold in on each other, and things are starting to, like, get all funky, and make the cleanse actually be like that the timelines are getting so unstable and so messed up that they're ceasing to exist altogether. Like, that's the cleanse. It's just all of these timelines just getting destroyed by all the various Hargreaves siblings out there, all the Marigold kids out there. It's just too much. It's overwhelming the timelines. It's creating too many timelines. And so the timelines are just eating each other. And that's the cleanse. That's what they have to stop. That's a ticking time bomb. That's a huge, huge fucking problem. And then also, I would have had 5 go to the restaurant way sooner. Like, end of episode 1. That soon. Like, I have him try to use his power just goes, he ends up in the subway, he takes the subway, he gets to the restaurant, walks in there's a whole bunch of other 5s. End of episode 1. Intriguing. What's going on? What's happening? Great cliffhanger for the first episode. Second episode, you can spend more time with these 5s and have him learn all the same stuff that he learned, have him find out, like, oh, it's us, it's the Marigold. The Marigold is doing this. It's all of the Marigold in all the timelines. It's just creating dysfunction, like our family tends to do. And 5 doesn't want to hear it. He's like, no, I can fix this. I can save my family, like he always wants to do. I feel like the writers forgot that part, but okay. There's not really any way, like, I can give them grace and stuff in a lot of ways, but that's not one of them. And so, like, he leaves the restaurant being like, okay, you did 145,000. I'm going to do 145,000 more. I'm going to find one. I'm going to find a way to stop this cleanse and save my family. And so I think you go back, doesn't tell any of them that it's like that. He just tells them, like, the timelines are unstable. Some shit's going on. We got to stop it and figure out a way to do that. Maybe they can split up. Maybe they can stay as a group. Maybe they go to, this version of Reginald, and he's a more to what he was at the end of season 3, where he's just this big, like, company man that owns everything and controls everything, and he's not just a dude. Like, he was just sort of there. And the timelines are blending in to each other. They're why if the timelines are converging and things are starting to seep in, why would you not bring in season 1 Reginald? Why would you not have done that? This is the perfect opportunity to bring in season 1 Reginald. And that way, that scene with Victor is with that actual Reginald, and it lands better. It hits better. Like, it's still a good scene. Like, Elliot Page knocks it out of the park. But, like, it doesn't have the same weight, though. It doesn't have a catharsis to it, because it's not the same Reginald. So if you brought in the actual Reginald, the real season 1 Reginald, to have Victor say those things to, then it hits. Then it feels better. You can have the other kids, once they find out what happens to Ben, you can have that other moment of them also confronting him, and you can have them at least have that little bit of catharsis to actually do something with their characters and give them some kind of closure in a way. Anyway, I'd literally take anything. That would have been so much better. So much better. It's wild to me. And I can see the idea of, like, Victor taking all the marigold and, like, sacrificing himself. Like, I get that. That could have worked, but, like, I never expected a happy ending. I was actually pretty okay with the ending, because I never expected a happy ending. I kind of figured they'd probably all die. So I wasn't that surprised about that happening. But I still think it could have been. They could have still had that same ending, though. If the cleanse was destroying timelines, eventually, it would keep happening, and eventually the siblings would go to 5, and they'd be like, okay, this isn't working. Why isn't this working? It's still happening. We're not fixing anything. What's going on? And finally 5 would have to tell them, like, well, it's kind of maybe all of us with the marigold. Like, it's we're kind of fucking things up. And then, have them sacrifice himself that way. Or, better yet, because all of this was caused by Reginald releasing the marigold in the first place, have them take a one-sided trip to Reginald's homeworld. That way you can get some background on Reginald, his home planet, all his alien business. You can put that in there. Have them know it's one way. Have them know they're going to basically be making sure none of this ever happens, because this is the break in all the timelines. This is the one point in time it all comes back to. So you fix that one moment in time, you fix all the other timelines. So it makes way more sense than just them sacrificing themselves, because that wouldn't do anything. So instead, yeah, they go to this home planet. They kill Reginald or something. I don't know. Who cares? Whatever. Somehow they stop him from releasing the marigold. And then they sacrifice themselves in that way, and they die on this planet. But you still have the same basic ending. They still sacrifice themselves. They fix all the timelines. They have the one true timeline. It would have worked. Would have worked perfectly fine. I don't know how this idea came to be. I don't know if it was just that they were told to do 10 episodes and they wrote out, scripts for 10 episodes. And then they were told, oh yeah, by the way, it's actually going to be 6. And then they had to get rid of 4 episodes, and they definitely probably didn't have the same amount of time they had initially writing to redo that. That's the only thing I can come up with, because it definitely seems like it's half-baked plans. They felt like we're going to go somewhere that they just didn't get to go. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of the interviews that have come out was like, oh yeah, I wanted to have stuff with Sloane, but we couldn't. Or I wanted to have stuff with Reggie, or, you know, whatever. And it just didn't pan out. And I don't think that's on the writers. I just think that was on the time frame they were given, both to rewrite the scripts and, you know, the fact that their episodes and their budget were cut. I think that's basically what it comes down to. And so the moral of the story here is, once again, stop doing that. Streamers, studios, stop fucking doing that. It usually doesn't pan out very well. You want people to come back and watch these shows again, right? Because that keeps up engagement. That gets you return customers, right? So if you have an ending like this, where a lot of people felt like, okay, this kind of negates everything that happened before, why should I watch this again? You're kind of stopping that from happening. So, I mean, like, Netflix isn't responsible for what the writers did, but they were, you know. You know, like, they weren't responsible directly for what was on the page. Like, that is up to the writers. But if they're not given enough time and they're told to toss out 4 episodes, they don't have a whole lot of choice. You know, it's hard to think on the fly like that and to redo everything you've just done. Like, that's not easy to do. You know, I thought of that. That took me, like, what? It's been 2 weeks. You know, I think I started thinking of that idea like a week or so ago. So, like, who knows how long they had to even come up with a different story, you know? Because there's stuff in there that just still wouldn't have worked with 10 episodes. Klaus, with 10 episodes, that still wouldn't have made any sense. He doesn't do anything. There's no point to that story. That story goes nowhere. It does nothing. You could literally skip past every single one of Klaus's scenes after he leaves the group and not miss. You wouldn't miss anything. Wouldn't change anything. You wouldn't miss anything. And there's some weird part of it where he says to Allison, like, oh, you just want to save me, or you just want to have someone to save. And it's like, Allison? Allison tries to save? That's literally never happened on the show. Like, literally, that is not a thing that's ever happened in this show. So I'm like, are you guys sure about that? Are you sure that's the story you're going with? And then to have him basically, like, captive and sex trafficked, essentially. Like, what the fuck? Why would, well, I mean, given the allegations that came out against Stephen Blackman a while ago, maybe that does make a little bit of sense. Maybe the whole Five and Lila thing does make a little sense now. Whatever happened to those allegations? I haven't really heard anything in a while. But yeah, it's almost been half an hour, so I better wrap this up. But I might do a rewatch of all 4 seasons. Maybe that would help. I don't really feel like it would, because I don't really feel like there's much from the previous 3 seasons that really has any bearing on season 4. But yeah, it was not good. It was not good. The first 2 episodes I liked. I was actually very into them. But then after that, I was actually, like, zoning out. Like, there were several times where I was just, like, zoned out, and I have no idea what happened. I actually had to rewind to go back, because I was like, oh, wait, what just happened? Like, Luther told whoever, like, oh, by the way, the CIA is full of keepers. And I was like, wait, when did that happen? Because I had zoned out. Completely zoned out in that scene. I had to rewind and rewatch that whole thing again. And I'm like, oh, I really didn't need to do that, because basically he just summarized exactly what happened. It's just, I blame this on Netflix, though. I blame this on studios and streamers just... And this was before the strike, so it's like they filmed before the strike. Maybe the post-production got kind of eaten away by the strike, I don't know. But it's like, I also definitely think that was supposed to come out in, like, December, because obviously they have the whole Christmas thing going on, so that could have been because of the strikes too. Although probably not, because they were already filmed and stuff. They could have done post production on it, so maybe not. Because I believe it was finished filming before the strike started. I'm pretty sure, because I think it's ended in spring of 2023, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I just when are they gonna learn? When are the studios? When are the streamers gonna learn? They don't know what the fuck they're doing. They don't know what they're doing. Just let creatives do what you hired them to do. That's all you need. Yeah, it's been half an hour. I'm gonna end this, and yeah, I might do more videos. I don't know. I just had to get this out. I have a lot of thoughts on a lot of different things. So maybe I'll do more videos. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe. Anyway, yeah. If you want to know if you should watch Umbrella Academy, watch the first 2 seasons. Maybe season 3. I didn't mind season 3. Season 4, just pretend the show ends at season 3. It's a much better ending, honestly. If I'm being completely honest, it's a better ending. Oh, and then I didn't even talk about how they created a whole new grandfather paradox by having Lila and Diego's kids and Claire in this new timeline. But okay, they're just going to ignore the fact that that would create a Kugelblitz. So I'm just going to ignore that and say goodnight. All right.